Okay, I believe I ended part one of this thing by saying that I wanted to go to a galaxy far, far away. And I finally did my skit parody of the classic Lost in Space. No, just kidding. It was Star Wars. And if you want to see it, there it is. Well, in case you happen to find this video while you're scrolling, my name is Mark Rollins, and these are skits that I used to write about 25 to 30 years ago. Yeah, this is for a college-age Christian group, so prepare for a lot of cringe. If you want to watch this without my commentary, check it out on CCF 90s Skits Nostalgia, and go there and watch this. And this is going to be part of a series I'm doing for an episode I'm doing at the end of the month called Confessions of a Christian Propaganda Artist. And you probably figured out why I call it that by just reading this scrolling here. And yeah, this is going to be a Star Wars parody, and this apparently has gotten the most hits of all the CCF 90s Skits Nostalgia that I posted. However, this is pretty much lost media, okay? I will have to give it up to the guy who did the scrolling for this with computer graphics. Very good. He plays C-3PO in this thing, so you'll get a chance to see him. Well, at least from the back you will. This will make sense as you watch it. I actually thought that YouTube had posted this video and then quieted the sound, but I recently viewed it, and it has the Star Wars main theme. Hopefully when I post this again on YouTube, they're not going to flag me. We'll see. But as you can see, I've kind of taken... Or at least we've sort of imitated this. I'm told that the guy who did the effects for this imitated the starfield like down to the exactly its level of detail I didn't really ask for. And then actually we get into some footage that we took from, I think, Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. And yeah, this sketch is actually more based on a scene from The Empire Strikes Back rather than, say, A New Hope, which is what most Star Wars parodies go with. I really wish this blended together better. And I know that I understand that the film quality is, of course, not really all that good. But when you have like Lucasfilm quality effects and you mix it with just this, which we shot, I think, in the video booth of the church we were at, just at night. So yeah, I do admire whoever, I think our props guy who plays Han Solo in this made that, what looks to be like the Falcon's kind of circular sort of cockpit thing. It actually kind of sells it, kind of. I think that's just a screensaver there, that's just going through stars, of course. I think there's a reason why you never see Chewie or C-3PO from the front, because I think Chewie is just played by some guy who is like in a Bigfoot mask or something like that, and C-3PO you can barely see. Hey, at least we got the Princess Leia's buns there, which are just like yarn, I think. Props to the whoever did that as far as setting that up. You know who you are. Anyway, so yeah, this is the famed scene where Han Solo can't get the Millennium Falcon to go into hyperspace. And I had the idea for this sketch a while ago, or a year before we actually did it. I always thought it'd be a kind of fun to just sort of mix the whole Star Wars thing with I don't know, some sort of Christian message or something like that. And hey, I mean, there was a time when Star Wars almost really fell in obscurity after the Return of the Jedi was done, and the rest of the 80s, and when it came on VHS, no one really thought of it anymore because we were trying to do newer things, and then eventually we just swallowed our nostalgia pills. Now this is interesting when they switch scenes here. There's this sound room that happened to have all this stuff here, which kind of looks kind of sci-fi, really, if you think about it. It just serves as the perfect backdrop, so what can you say? And yeah, and I gotta admire the guy who's portraying Han Solo in this thing, because I think he's doing his best on that. And yes, you are seeing a scene in which Han Solo has to trust the Bible in order to get by Darth Vader. Yes, you are seeing this. This exists. All I can say is keep watching or it'll disappear. I'm serious. It is so weird, and yeah, I have to admit, like I said, I thought I had this idea over a year before I actually did it, which a lot of my ideas were like that when I was doing this. I just had an idea, and then I finally got a chance to do it. And this one, I have to say, I'm kind of disappointed with. By the way, I think there's a shot of me if you look close enough in there. The camera kind of pans and I'm kind of low. I think I'm like holding the script or something like that. So there's a little Easter egg for you. Anyway, so I have to admit, I guess we just lack the effects to really make a good Faith Wars sketch. What can you say? And of course, we're just borrowing from The Empire Strikes Back again. And who knows? Maybe they're probably going to flag us on this. I don't know. Yeah. Fortunately, I can always post on TikTok, and I don't know about YouTube. And yeah. So anyway, so that's Faith Wars, and yeah, I still like the fact that we did it. Okay, I actually don't think Faith Wars is one of my better sketches, really. However, it really helped out this one guy who made the great graphics on it, and I'm going to talk more about that later. And I think the reason why I don't think Faith Wars worked is because we really went all out to make the video as far as like the actual, the intro and stuff like that, getting the scrolling rights, even taking footage from the original film. But the actual footage that we filmed for the skit, and this was a skit that was done just completely on video, and I think this is the first time I really had done that, doesn't look very good. I mean, most of the time we do the footage just on stage, and I think people would have been more forgiving if we had this like done on stage, in which case I actually would have probably shot it differently. Like we would have seen it from the, like from the point of view, like we're seeing all the characters' faces. But with the 60s Star Trek sketch, I think this worked because it looked so cheesy, but then again, 60s Star Trek looked really cheesy, but Star Wars in many cases has stood the test of time, so yeah. Okay, while I'm on the subject of Star Wars, I might as well bring this up. There was a time in 1999 where the CCF team wanted me to do a Star Wars sketch because at the time, The Phantom Menace had just been released. And if you remember that time, the nostalgia for that IP was just getting so high as kids who remembered having all the toys from that particular fun trilogy were all grown up and they were going to see a new trilogy. And I came up with a skit which had a lot of effects in it, and I wrote storyboards for it, and I gave it to the guy who did the effects for like that Star Wars skit. And we were really excited for this, and I don't really know what happened to those storyboards. Once again, lost media, tears in the rain. But in the end, the team rejected the idea because it would just take so long to do. And in a way, they kind of wanted to focus more. I mean, if we got people, cast members involved, it would take time away from their ministry, was what I thought they would have. By ministry, I mean them reaching out to the campus and stuff like that, because that was higher priority than doing a work of art and stuff like that. And I can see where they're coming from. I felt like, however, in retrospect, I felt like had we have done that skit, the internet was really starting to take off then. We could have probably put it on the skit or put it on the internet, and you could probably have watched it in like, I don't know, real-time audio or whatever you were watching. Because I remember when the Phantom Menace trailer came out, I had to download that thing. It took like 3 hours or something like that. And but once I had it, it's like I watched it over and over again because it was just like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Star Wars is back. So I sort of felt like, we could have started this whole YouTube sensation if we wanted to. Tears in the rain. Anyway, this is just one of those situations where you need to live and learn. In my case, I had one sketch where I learned a lot, not because I did something right, but because something went really wrong. And watch this one. Okay, chances are if you're watching this, you've probably seen the other videos I've done. Basically, I'm Mark Rollins. These are skits I wrote like 25 to 30 years ago for a college-age Christian group, and they were videotaped. I put them on YouTube under CCF 90 Skits Nostalgia. You can go there if you want to see me talk or hear this thing without my commentary. There's a lot of evangelical cringe going on there, and this is some serious cringe on a major level. So I'm definitely going to talk about this, hopefully at the end of April, about my experience with this. And let me say that the person talking here is me. I am the star of this sketch. You can imagine how pleased I was to know that I was the star of this, because I'm more than slightly
I
vain.
worry about Roger a lot because
Um,
he just
I've
kind
always
of
kind of
became
wanted to
rich
do
really
something like
recently.
this because
Right now, he's
I think I
involved with this
modeled this after
girl.
like
This.
situation
Oh, there you
comedies in
go.
which characters break the fourth wall.
Hi, Nelson. I
There was
hope
a
you don't mind
popular
having our
show in
chili
the
along.
Hi,
late
Nelson.
80s called It's Gary
Hi,
Shandling's
Julia.
Show, where the comedian
Oh,
Gary
by the way,
Shandling essentially played
Roger told
himself and
me
he would
6 times that
often
Julia was coming over today.
talk to the
I wish you wouldn't
audience.
rub it in like that.
And his show was
And we're just
never really
sitting
taken too
together
seriously.
in
He
the
just would
living
just
room.
do a
She's like, let
sitcom
me pass
related
my
bit,
math test.
and that
Roger,
was it.
I'm
And the
not.
here I just kind of
You
did a
are?
situation comedy, and so
Oh, this is so
something like
cute.
that. Situation comedies were
This is one
still
of
pretty
those
popular this time.
boyfriend-girlfriend
Seinfeld and
games that
Friends
I
were
have
still
absolutely
going
nothing in common
strong
with.
at the time of this recording here.
But just between you and me, I don't think
Now,
these guys
this
will get
is
much
sort
studying
of
done in
this
Illinois.
topic here is about relationships,
Okay.
which was a very popular topic at CCF. I'm
All
told
right.
that
Well, with
more
any luck, they're
people
probably going to be
attended our
squishing up like
relationships
Romeo and
related
Juliet.
CCFs than pretty much anyone.
Wait a second.
So,
What are they
yeah.
saying? She
And
turned the Bible on. Wait.
at the church, we had a
Oh,
very
I just
interesting way of
better
looking at
study some
relationships.
math right now.
That's okay.
I
That's
think
okay. We're
if I
gonna
wanted
get
to
to
really state it right, we kind of use this whole triangle
Oh
diagram.
my
Like,
gosh, this is.
here's you, here's your
Oh, I
life
was wrong about
partner, and
Roger.
God is at the top, and you
Okay,
both kind of
Julia
come
really
together,
got
and
me
it's like a
couple.
big
Oh
gold
man.
triangle
Man,
thing.
I think that's awesome.
And
Oh
this
man,
is
that is
something
so. Isn't
that
that great?
this
But
is
what
a
about
pretty
me,
conservative
man?
view of
Look at
marriage. And
Julia. Look
hey,
who I got.
I have to say, like, it's not something I kind of support now, but I kind of
I mean, listen to Christian
understand the
football than he is.
why you would want this. I think we all want to know that the person that we're marrying is the ideal person. And that's something that I still kind of
That's good. I'm
agree
just gonna.
to. At least I
I'm just
think
gonna
there's this
call up
idea
some
of like,
girl
I
and I'm
mean,
just
hey,
gonna
I
start a
think there's
bet.
some marriages that are not
That's just
ideal and
it.
shouldn't take
Okay.
place.
Okay. Where's
But
the
hey,
phone? Where's? It's not as
there were
usual.
people that
Oh, who
talked
put
to
it
me
over here
about
by the
this
phone?
sketch,
Oh
and
God.
the thing about comedy is there's this
Okay, here we
tendency to
go. First
emphasize the
entry. Anna
negative.
Hardman. Yeah, I think I was just
And
talking to her the other
in
day.
this particular sketch, I kind of
Very connected.
did that. And here's the thing. I
All
address
right,
things
then
in
we
this
roll it.
video that a lot of Christian
Hi,
people
come
sort
in.
of
I'm not home right now.
don't want
Just
to
my
talk
luck,
about.
Aunt.
This idea that
Well,
you
what can
can
I
get
say?
desperate
Hi,
if
Anna.
you
This is
kind of
Nelson. If you're
believe
looking for
this
a relationship
idea
just as
that
you're
there's
looking
this
today,
ideal made out for me and you don't know how to find it, you
somehow
have
I don't
no
think God would honor
blueprint,
that.
there's no steps you can
Lord,
take other
oh, you
than to
don't know who I
wait,
am.
wait, wait.
Lord, if
And
you
that
don't
can
want
be
me to
really
get involved in a
frustrating.
relationship right now,
And sometimes
just give
you
me some
you
sign, you
just
know?
get this desperate
Any
and
kind of
stuff
sign,
like
just a
that.
little one.
And it's really, really
Here it
crazy.
is.
Like I like this thing where he asks for a sign and then this happens and he immediately goes like, "Hey, that doesn't count, man."
Hey, that doesn't count,
And
man. That doesn't count.
yeah, so and one of the things I definitely wanted to bring up here in this
I'm
thing,
sorry, Nelson.
yeah, this
Angela
character
just wanted to
Nelson
see you.
interacts with his three
Where's
roommates.
Roger?
This one,
Oh, he's in the
Max,
other room with
had just
Julia.
broken up with
Julia.
somebody and then kind of has to deal
Hey,
with
you
something.
don't look so good. Is
And I
that
kind of
wrong?
like how
Well,
self-centered
I've been having relationship
Nelson is
problems.
here. He's not like
Yeah, tell me
upset
about it.
that
Yeah,
his
well,
friend
me
is
and him,
having trouble. He's
me
upset
and
that he's
Andrew
having
just
trouble,
broke.
which is kind
I
of,
didn't mean that literally.
you know,
Wait a second.
see how
Oh
upset he
God,
is
this is
at this
bad.
thing?
God, this is worse than ever.
Because
Oh, what
he
has
thinks
this
like this
ever
is his
happened to
sign and
me?
stuff
That's
like that.
exactly what I said.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me.
So yeah, this is where it kind of gets like just a bit out of
Well,
hand. But I really think that
when
there's
I think
something
about
to
it,
this idea that
it was totally outside of the will of
Christian
God.
people
I
are
was
just waiting for
totally
that right
self-centered and
mate, and if
self-focused.
it doesn't happen, you just get frustrated and stuff like that. It just kind of happens like that.
Well, I think
I
you're
mean,
the,
it's just this is the problem here.
Hi
No,
guys.
this guy here.
I was just spending time with
This is kind of an
Jesus.
interesting character we
Jesus is
wrote.
so
Some guy who's
wonderful.
just totally into
I'm
God and
so
just
brave.
isn't looking for any type of
So glad
relationship
I'm loved.
whatsoever. Probably
It's
is called the
okay.
celibacy.
we were talking about
And
relationships.
I think it's kind of funny
Oh,
that in the
relationships.
context of the
Well, those
sketch,
are okay. Those are
he's the
fine.
one that is most
But
marriageable,
I'd rather
and
focus on my
the one that
relationship with God
even
right
this
now.
gal who we're
I know
going to
what you're
be
thinking about
introducing
dating,
later
and
on
you're
is
probably right. I'll
actually
do celibacy.
seeking after. Which honestly, a lot of people really thought that was that was
The worst, oh, so I'll tell
that
you
was
where.
something that
I'll go
was
get
just
it.
true, and I think it is.
I want to just look through the people here and see who it
Yeah.
is. It's a
Man, hey,
girl.
back when I was living alone with like males, we often had this like, oh, there's a girl showing up, and it's like, you had to prep
Okay, I'm
for it and
in.
stuff like that.
Okay.
This is just there's a whole
Hi,
like
Dad.
subculture
Say
here
hello.
Yeah,
in
you did. Just
Christianity
like
about like
you
how to
did.
just
Anna Arden's here to see you.
how to
Anna Arden,
connect and
no
how to
wonder she
date
wasn't
and how to
home.
stuff like that. And this is just it's stuff that I'm really frustrated with a lot now, as far as like I hope people don't ever have to live like this, because it is not a very comforting way to live. And yeah, and I think in this sketch I actually showed the dark side of this. Like, sure, you might get married to somebody who is your ideal mate, but man, all this just stuff that you got to go through to just waiting, and just not being able to do anything is just insane.
Well,
So, yeah.
Now.
All right. And I did kind of like this whole setup here, because I just think that it's just like, because I've been in situations like this before where it's like, I've been the kind of guy who is, it took years before, like, I found somebody that I could kind of, was sort of investing in, so to speak. And I've been the guy who's like, had a roommate who was investing in somebody pretty heavily that I could tell they were going to get married very soon and they're just going to move out. And I've been in situations where I was the roommate of the person who just broke up. And so a lot of this stuff is kind of based on personal experience. And yeah, here's this thing here where I'm just sort of addressing the audience here. What am I, Deadpool? I don't know. So yeah, and they got him there. Asking him, should I tell the truth? And I kind of think this is interesting. And I think, ironically, I don't think that something like this would happen in real life. Like, I wouldn't go up to somebody and just say, hey, I'm jealous of what you have here. And, but I think it's kind of good to be, maybe this has a...
I'm just jealous of what you have.
Here's the thing. I'm really trying to mine any good message out of this, and I have to say, maybe the setup of this just isn't so good, and then you have to deal with this kind of thing that you're working with here. Now, this is where this sketch goes off the rails because of that line. That is not in the script, and the way it's delivered is just a little hysterical. We were knocked off kilter. I don't even know what the original ending of this is with this dialogue. I think these guys got it right, and but it feels so out of touch with what was just said here. So as you can see, I am just ready to lose it, because I don't know what to do here, because that threw me off so much, and I'm kind of the one who's having to kind of deal with this sort of thing. And if there's one thing I'm not good, it's ad-libbing. I cannot do it. So I just kind of like, and here I am struggling for my lines, just to figure out what I'm going to do, and I cannot do it. So.
I think it's about time that
yeah, self-writing selfish endings. Yeah, this is very true.
What I need to do is just concentrate on God's plan, man.
But notice how I say, what do you guys think? That was not in the script. I just had to do something. So I just did not know what to do. I still get a kick out of this one. Yeah. I'll have to say, when I talk about this sketch, I'm always grateful for how it turned out. I think if we had left the script as is, no one would really remember this. I actually think at the end of the year video that CCF used to do, where they kind of showed the greatest hits, of course we had the clip of that actor saying "fantastic" right at the end. I'm not certain if the guy who played this role was constantly taunted with that sort of ad-lib line he came up with. I'm sure it came up a lot. I remember he actually spoke in front of the church one day, and he kind of referenced it. And I hope he didn't suffer too much from it, because that guy was a really great guy. Well, is a great guy. I mean, a lot of these people that you see in these sketches I haven't seen in like decades. And I'm not going to deny in that sitcom thing that I wanted to play the starring role. I'm also not going to deny that I like the attention. I'm guessing that's the whole reason why I'm doing this whole show here. So I'm not going to deny that I'm vain, and I'm also not going to deny that maybe I'm not a good writer, and or I'm just not a good writer with good character. But I'm going to get to that a little later. Anyway, I'm just going to say it that I think it's good to admit that you're not always the one who could do the best job. I was told afterwards there were many who could sympathize with the main character of the sitcom sketch, so if the humor is relatable, I guess I did my job and I did it pretty well. Of course, sometimes you just gotta forget the message and have some fun, which is kind of what this Christmas-based sketch did. Okay, normally I do this long intro where I say like this skits came out like decades ago for a college-age group. You can find it on CCF 90 Skits Nostalgia. Usually I warn about cringe and stuff like that and the evangelical cringe thereof. This one is honestly something that, well, it's just fun. There's no like big Christian message to it or anything like that. This is just like two guys just figuring out how to create good gift ideas. And it's very cheaply done, okay? I gotta admit. It is incredibly cheaply done. But, you know, and this is probably in the era of, like, home improvement where this kind of man stuff was, like, starting to get pretty popular. And now it's, like, a bit almost like a disease now because of incel culture. But, anyway, personally, I think that's pretty funny, putting that little Nerf hoop on that thing. So, yeah. And I really like how these guys are just really getting into this, which really helps out a bunch. So, okay, now coming up is a joke that I think people took the wrong way. And I'm going to hope to just get to it and talk in circles until we get to it. But here's the thing. The joke here is that they're supposed to be making a gift basket, and instead of using plastic grass, they're using grass from underneath a lawnmower. But when that bag came out, a lot of people thought that was supposed to be like marijuana. I'm serious. I don't know how that happened. It's just like people saw that grass, they thought like, oh hey, and that's not something you saw in rehearsal or anything like that. It's just it's funny that was the final effect of what they got. And yeah, personally, I think this is a good idea to make a gift basket because I would actually like to do something like this because
10 hours of free.
Yeah, the 10 hours of free American Online. Those discs used to be everywhere. They used to be in magazines. They used to be, and yeah, that was back at the time when the internet was just kind of getting going. So that kind of dates this thing. And yeah, I like this idea of putting the Saran wrap on it. Just there it is.
Any woman would melt after getting one of these, let me tell you.
Yeah, this is actually pretty funny, honestly.
Okay, what do we got next?
In a 90s kind of way.
You know, this next
yes.
idea is for people who are in the dorms.
Now, this next gag I'm actually in on. In fact, you probably don't know this, but that little thing that they're using, I'm actually behind that. And there's a reason why.
3D.
The 3D stereograms. You remember this? These were so popular one time that you just couldn't get away from these things. And you'd either see them or you couldn't. I was one of those who could, and I felt pretty proud of that. So,
go ahead and stand back a little bit more.
And I make here's where I make my.
Okay, all of you out there now, concentrate right on the center, and you'll.
Yeah, focus on the center there. And that's me.
Was it? I think I saw it.
Doing a Heisman.
Was it the Heisman Trophy?
Yeah.
Isn't that
Oh my gosh, that is amazing!
Oftentimes that's what I would see when I would be doing that. I'd see that. I'd see the 3D image just briefly, and then it would be
This
gone.
next gift is for the winter time.
Anyway,
It's kind of snowy out there.
here's
so
another
for
joke
you,
I have to explain.
we
Wow, I
have
have to explain
this
all these
brand new
jokes.
Sled.
Okay, so they call this tree a sled. Is that funny?
It's sleek, aerodynamic
Well, if
design.
you live in a
It's easy
college
to use
town
handles,
and where the
it's
students
made
often
of
take the sleds from the
100%
dining
sturdy
centers and they start
ABS
using them
plastic, so
as,
except
or
no
they take the
invitations
trays
here,
from the
man.
dining
That's
center,
right,
start
and
using
it
them as
doubles
sleds.
as a cafeteria
Yeah,
chair.
most
That
people
makes
did
it
this.
easy
I
clean.
did this.
Very
It's
nice.
fun. It's
And
really
also
fun to go
notice the
sliding
rich
down a
marbled
hill with those
texture.
things. And this marble texture, I think that was improv, but I don't know. That tray did have a nice marble texture. I'll
Bob,
give it
why
that.
don't you introduce our last gift?
Okay. Now this is for
Okay,
people who
so
like to
oh
eat,
yes, and then of
but
course we
don't
have
like
to.
cook.
Isn't that all of
I
us?
really feel like these jokes
It's
were old when they were telling them.
Yes.
I mean, they're making a joke about ramen. Look at the people in the audience cheering.
101 ramen recipes.
And we
That's
actually
right,
made a
baby.
book of
We
101
got
ramen
ramen
recipes.
King, color
Surely
coded
there's
ramen,
another.
any kind of ramen you can think of.
And the
Surely
great
there's a
thing is,
book that
it
actually
also
has that.
doubles as an exfoliating loofah
I like the
Oh,
exfoliating
yes.
loofah sponge joke. That's pretty
refreshing.
good.
It's squeaky clean.
2 minutes of this and a
We're-
hot shower.
You're ready to eat.
And
Yeah,
you're
no, that's
squeaky
pretty
clean
hysterical.
too. It's all in the book.
Oh boy.
That's right.
Yeah, boy, I tell you, no need,
No
to,
need
go
to go to the mall
for
this holiday. Does anyone go to the mall on any
we'll be
holiday
back
ever since?
after these
Boy, that
messages
really
with some
dates
more
this.
Garage Time theme.
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Anyway, so normally the holiday themed skits are like, they always have that Jesus is the reason for the season message. Much of it talks about a problem that I think most of us, but anyway, that particular one, the gifts from the holiday, I really think I like that one because it just talks about a problem we all have, like how to buy the gift for the one they really love. I mean, I think that really is important. Also, I think the reason why that skit works is because the two actors who are just naturally funny. I've seen skits that don't work good on paper, but they suddenly come to life when you have that right person on stage, and that would definitely be the case there. Yeah, the jokes in this one aren't really good. In fact, many of them feel as dated as heck, and I have to explain them in the commentary. Might as well be discussing why women always go to the bathroom at the same time. Yeah, that was a popular comedy bit in the 90s, in case you didn't know. I think the reason why I like that Gifts for the Holidays skit so much is it reminds me of something that Johnny Carson would do, and I'm beginning to realize how much Saturday Night Live and late night talk shows have really influenced me. Carson quit The Tonight Show in the early 90s, and since I grew up in the 80s, I wasn't really able to stay up late and watch him. However, there was this syndicated show called Carson's Comedy Classics, where they shut off a lot of the funnier bits he used to do, like Karnak and Magnificent and stuff like that. As I recall, they would do, Johnny and Ed would do a sketch like this, where they would just be showing off new products, but in their case, they'd be reading from cards, and it was purposely unrehearsed. These two guys, in the Gifts for the Holiday thing, they did rehearse that, so I guess I'm being more professional than the professionals. Speaking of professional, I think that this next one is one of the best works I've ever done. Okay, I'm going to assume that you've already have seen some of the other sketches I've done, so I'll get through some of the highlights. I did these sketches like 25 to 30 years ago for a college-age Christian group, and they're on a YouTube site as CCF's 90s Skits Nostalgia. You go in there if you don't want to hear the commentary. There's a lot of evangelical cringe here, and I'm going to write a whole episode of my show dealing with this kind of period of my life. And honestly, I'm actually quite proud of this work. Really, this is a whole thing that the conceit is it's just based on Shakespeare. And this was a real challenge for me to write. I remember. Basically, I think I found like a book called Brush Up on Your Shakespeare, and it had all these Shakespeare quotes. And I basically just inserted as many Shakespeare quotes as I could in the script, and I think the result actually really works. And I think there's actually a book that's on that table there. That's The Complete Works of William Shakespeare, which is in my college WSU textbook. And I had to read a lot of Shakespeare while I was in college. So yeah, so I guess I had a lot of experience with it. And I don't know, Shakespeare is always one of those things that's like, I feel like we think it's so great, but I've met people from other countries and they always ask me like, why do people think Shakespeare is so great? And I'll be very honest, I don't really have a good answer for them. I feel like the only answer I can give is like, because we think it's great, that's why.
Yay, come with us.
And anyway, so basically the whole thing and the theme of the sketch is about a guy who goes to college and is tempted to get involved with a revelry there, and instead he decides to convert into a Christian. And this sketch has like 3 acts, I guess we should say. And what's interesting is the speaker, normally for a CCF sketch, there's one speaker who's usually was Pastor Phil. In this case, Pastor Phil had to leave for that week, so he left it in the hands of 3 students. I don't remember if they were students at the time, but they were regular attenders of CCF and probably on the CCF team, probably. Like I was on the CCF team to make these sketches. And yeah, so they both did a sketch called like, I can't remember. The Choice, the Change, and the Consequence, I think it was called. So they like all had different sections that they did. And I sort of arranged the sketch so it comes like as an act right after they do the sketch. There's a speaker, then they do the sketch, then there's a speaker, they do the sketch, and then there's a speaker, then they do the sketch. and it turned out really well.
Thinkest you are
This is just one of
holier
those
than
things
we?
that just really works in the stars lineup,
nay.
and it
The
never
word
really
of God
happens.
has come, and it is too solid. My
It
flesh
rarely
should
happens, and when it does, enjoy it.
On
And
your
in this
guard.
case, I really enjoy watching this one. I mean, you get some good sword fighting in.
Can't
The
stop
costumes
to be
are also
Christian.
really interesting. I think
And come with
I think
us?
my pantaloons or whatever those are
nay.
called. They're just
Nay,
like
nay.
I think those are jeans that I put on
For sin
backwards
by
at
any other
first,
name
like through the
would smell just
through the
as
legs,
bad.
and then just kind of pulled them up, and so
A2?
yeah, A2 Brute. Yeah. Honestly, if I had to talk about every line here that I stole from Shakespeare, this would actually be another thing. This, you actually need a concordance to watch this sketch. So this is one of the only times I can really recommend watching this without my commentary. That way you don't really get everything here. Okay. Looks like it just kind of cracked up there. So
Oh,
I never really expected that.
'twas the most unkindest cut of
Oh,
all.
so looks like I remembered my line.
But the course of true love never did run smooth.
Yeah, I must have just started
Ah,
cracking.
but I am a Christian, and a Christian to stay. I am going for God all the way.
Oh yeah, I always like swooshing the sword. This is something I did in a lot of production I was in. I always had an excuse to swoosh swords. Yeah, I'm not really sure why they chose this music, but
You
hey.
guys have made the choices. You
Okay,
guys
looks
have
like there
made
was a, this is an
Yeah.
audio error
Now to us
of
near.
some type. I
As I
have
look
no
around,
idea why there is,
with
this
how
is,
Good things I find.
this is put in there. I don't remember this being there live, but
But yet-
there it is. That was the voice of Pastor Phil talking about you made
I
the
feel a
choices
need
and
to give
stuff like
out
that. I have no idea how
I've
that error
learned.
got in there.
To tell
So,
of a
yeah.
grace that cannot be earned.
Anyway, so now personally, I'm not that really good of an
Out, dang
actor, or at
spot,
least I don't
out,
think
I
I'm really
say.
good of an actor, but I felt like I was really trying to give my all in this performance. So anyway,
Oh, what hope!
and I guess when it
romance.
comes to
Where's
acting,
Benedict?
I guess you study Shakespeare, right? So
He hath injured himself
this is so funny.
in revelry.
His line delivery. Oh, this guy was always so fun to work with. There are certain people that,
Let us see.
when I work with on sketches, I just loved having them there because they were always so
Alas,
great.
poor old Benedict. I knew him.
Oh, yes. And,
We have seen the end of our ways. Can you tell
okay,
us
now,
about what has
here's the
changed
thing I
you?
am most proud of in this thing.
Oh, yay.
This particular
As a
line
caterpillar gives up its burdensome
about a
legs,
caterpillar and a butterfly,
for a pair
I
of beautiful
wrote that.
wings.
That is not based on anything
so hath
Shakespeare.
God cocooned me.
And I've written this stuff.
And now,
You know, there
I'm
was a
set
time I
free
was
to
super
soar
proud
to
of
new
this, and I
heights.
thought if that was ever to die, I would want the
In other
last
words,
line of the sketch
I have come a long
played at
way,
my
baby.
funeral. I don't necessarily feel that now,
not getting
but I
any
do
of this.
like the idea of just
let this
being
be the one to
determined
tell.
to live what's right, and
Ah,
you know, and
all's
to.
well that ends well.
And there's a line about
For
this
all the world is a stage.
stage, and
People,
then it says, "Audience,
merely players.
ignore the naysayers
audience.
who say that Christ won't change you, and
Do not listen
time
to
will tell
naysayers
if the
who
change
say
be
that
true."
God cannot change you.
And I don't know.
For time will tell
I'm
that the
not really sure how to
change
feel about that.
be true.
I think I might have said something in my commentary on this sketch that I would want this sketch playing at my funeral. I don't think that would necessarily be my wish now. Yeah, it just kind of shows how time changes our priorities. I think I've had an unfortunate displeasure of having friends my age, or at least my age back then, back when I was younger, dying while young. And I figured that they would be pleased if we celebrated their Christian life. That is, like the main character in the play, they go for God all the way. There was a time where I thought I knew what that meant. I feel like modern day Christianity would simply interpret this as being some sort of super evangelist who brings new people to church every week and gets them saved. I want it known that I have no problem with this message, I guess. There's just certain politics that one is expected to conform to after you're saved that I have to reject. This is where it's going to get very complicated here. I guess I would have any good advice to give rather than the same, the idea of seizing the day, not wasting time in pointless revelry that can hurt you sometime down the road. I mean, that part I kind of agree with. I think there's part of it is, not taking someone and trying to make them exactly like you as far as the roadmap to morality. I don't really think it works this way. This is sort of the Christian plan for people, and I don't really think it's healthy. I think these days the mission of any human being is the same oath a doctor would take. Do no harm. Anyway, I was really on fire for those last few weeks of that year, and I did this one sketch, I think the following week, that just also knocked it out of the park. Let's watch. All right, so this is Mark Rollins here. So this sketch was done about
transmit, sir?
30 years ago when I wrote sketches for a college age group. And they're still on YouTube under CCF 90s Skits Nostalgia if you want to watch it there, if you want to watch it without the commentary. There's a lot of evangelical cringe going on here, and I'll get to that when I get to that.
Nice.
I'm intending to compile all these commentaries that I'm doing into one particular episode that I hope to have done by the end of April, beginning of May, sometime like that. This is a sketch that is obviously based on Apollo 13, but if you didn't know that, I don't blame you. That film is pretty old. It is still pretty good. I used to watch it quite a few times because I think a roommate of mine owned it. And
we're up here in outer space.
And I just think it's just a great story overall, honestly. It's hard to believe that it actually really happened. I really hope it happened the way that they showed it in the movie that Ron Howard directed, because it's a pretty exciting story that feels like an episode of Star Trek, but in like real life. Now I'm gonna say some things and to explain the context of how we're using it. At CCF, we often did this thing where at the end of the year, where most of the students would be heading home, to wherever they came from. And one of the things that I think Pastor Phil, the guy who was in charge of CCF, never liked is a lot of the students, they just kind of felt like they just weren't as in touch with God as they were when they were at CCF or in Pullman in general. So, and I have to admit, I felt that way. There was a few summers I spent at home, and I felt that I was just like, just didn't feel just didn't have that whole fellowship around me with my friends. And it was difficult. And so this sketch is sort of written as kind of like helping out people here. In this case, these people are spending their entire summer in space. It's kind of metaphorical for the students who are away from church for a bit. So, you might have heard the sound of glass hitting each other when they start getting off course. There's a reason for that, and you'll see it at the end here. This is how I do like how this was handled. I think metaphorically, I think this works really well. I think it really gets, it feels like the movie. And yeah, I do like the fact that we use, I don't know if it's a green screen or a blue screen. I think we just used some screen of some type. I think it was just, I think it was the first time we ever used like a blue screen for these things. And I have to admit, I didn't really like shooting with video because I don't know, it's always harder, but this was actually done in real time. Like these guys were like just backstage with a camera, and then and people in the audience could see because there's a screen above the main stage where they have the mission control thing. Geez, I guess I didn't really explain that, did I? At any given time, because sometimes you have to. So oftentimes I used to cut back and forth between the stage. Anyway, the guy who was in charge of CCF, he wanted to do this Apollo 13 like at the beginning of the year, back when it was fresh in people's mind, he thought. But
that's true. Something else must be draining our power.
I don't know. I didn't do it, and
Jack,
so
where are you living your life?
I guess I didn't think that was a good idea. I'm very glad I kind of saved it to the. This is one of those times where I'm going to have to say I was right on this one, because I think this idea works better for the end of the year rather than the beginning of the year. And I remember that time where he was like reading through the script and he was smiling and he just goes like, I love this thing. And I always thought, to me, that was big. This guy who I always pitched the sketches to, and sometimes I would give him the sketch. Sometimes he'd read it over and he'd kind of go, and he'd, see the potential. But this one, I caught him reading it and he just was goes like,
Copy,
I can't
Houston.
wait to do this
We're looking
one.
forward to hearing from you.
And he absolutely
Apollo
just
signing off.
loved this
Okay,
one because I
guys,
think he
this
loves
is
the
what we have
movie,
to
and
work with.
well, I did too. So that kind of worked in our favor here.
We have a
So,
four-color pen. We have
as
a
far as this
spiritual
full
notebook.
color,
We
four-color
have a
pen,
Bible.
I don't even want to
And
try and
most
explain that
importantly,
as
we
far as
have
what that
God.
means.
What I need you to do
That
is
was
I
something
need you to
that's
take these
maybe
things
unique
and
to
make
our
a
church.
filter for
I
them to get
really
rid of
hope not,
discouragement
but
so that we
yeah.
can put some
Whole
life
spiritual
support up
notebook.
there.
Do I have to explain
And
what that is? I
failure
hope
is
not.
not an option.
Okay, I
Get
did like
to
the
it, man.
failure is not an option thing. I always like the scene in Apollo 13 where they have to construct this filter that fits a round something into a square thing, but
Girl crazy.
I don't know. I always kind of thought that was really good.
We're not going
And
to
I
do
always
this.
like the scene in
We're
Apollo
not going to
13
sit here and
where
argue for 10 minutes
Jim
and
Lovell,
end up in the exact
Tom
same
Hanks'
place.
character, basically
No, we
tells
got 1,000 things
that
to
they
do.
got to stop arguing because
We're on number 8. You guys are
we're not
talking
going
about
to do
number
this, not going to
749.
argue about this and end up in the
We're
same
gonna get
place we
through
were
this
before. I always thought that was
with
pretty
God.
dynamic.
And with each other.
And so, yeah, I think I incorporated
man, what'd you come
quite
up
a
with?
lot of great things in
That's
the
what they
film.
gotta
Because there are
build.
some times where you
You see,
do a
this is
sketch that's
letter
based on
from Pastor
something
Phil,
and it's only like a satire in name
encourages,
only, and you only take
plasmatic,
some
more,
parts of it. Here,
silent
man, I mean, I knew I
Hebrew
both take like full
talk
lines from the
today.
Apollo 13
It's
movie
encouragement, sir.
and
Okay, and this Bible
Make
here
it
is
in
gonna
there.
filter out their discouragement
so,
that they already got.
and this
Nice
is pretty
work,
funny.
man. Apollo 13.
Wait. We need to
Oh, yeah, here's the
fireflies
ghost.
to put them back on course. But the only problem
Yeah, they
is
talk about
we only
taking
have
on 20 amps. I took that
Oh,
from the
20 amps.
film.
We can't even run this
I
microphone.
really like a
on
line
20
that I
amps.
have here that where I say we can't even run this microphone
I know
on
it
20
only takes
amps.
20 amps,
It really
but
breaks
with
out.
God,
I don't know
we
why.
can
I
do
just think that's funny. I kind of like that.
All okay,
How we're
Apollo
kind of
13, are you up
it's
there?
really kind of
we have your procedures for you.
taking you out of the
First
moment
of
there,
all,
but
you
honestly
need
it kind of
a Bible.
works.
You need a 4-color pen.
Yeah, you need a Bible,
You need a
4-color pen.
spiritual
Yeah,
notebook.
spiritual notebook.
And
Yeah,
most
I know.
importantly,
These are crazy
you
things
need
that
God. I want you to assess that, put
that
it
Christian
together,
people
make a
want
filter.
to
We're going to get
give
rid
us
of the
to
discouragement,
help
and
us
then we're
and
going to
be
work on
encouraged and
getting
stuff
you
like
fired
that.
up
But
and back
you can
on
see where
track.
this is going.
Copy,
Anyway,
Houston.
so
Fredo, get to work on that filter.
anyway, I just
Houston,
I don't know why. I think
we do
that
that
there's something
fire
about the
up
sketch that
with
really
this
kind of
little power?
draws me in, and
Apollo Summer 13.
unfortunately, this is
With
kind of one of
God,
those things where I
you
wish
can do
I kind of,
anything.
yeah, I know. This
copy,
is,
Houston.
I've never really mentioned
Fredo,
here
you ready
that
with that
you
filter?
lose a lot in the videotape
Dang
on
it,
this.
Jim. I'm an
Yeah,
astronaut.
it's not the person
not
who's
a-
taping its fault.
not
They
an
don't.
engineer.
I mean, they
Fredo,
don't really
you
know.
can't put
So,
that
for
line
example,
in
like
here.
they should
We've used
cut
that line
back
over
to where the
100 times in the
astronauts
last
are
2
for
years.
most of this
Hey,
dialogue,
it's
but
already
they
in,
don't
Jim.
really don't.
Check life support.
And the audience can actually see both happening at the same
Life
time.
support is at,
So yeah, see now they cut.
80
I think they're a minute too late on
90.
that. That's fine.
and climbing.
That hey,
Nice
that's
work,
pretty
Fredo.
good. Anyway, so we got ourselves a
Swagger.
good happy ending here.
You ready with that burn?
Oh yeah, this thing.
Engaging
This is
manual
about one of the
control.
cheapest effects you could
Now.
ever do in anything.
This could be our worst failure ever.
It feels like
Actually,
something out of Star
this
Trek
will
or
be
something
our
like that.
finest
If you haven't watched a Star Trek sketch, you can watch that. That's maybe even funnier than this one. I don't know.
Houston,
Oh
we
boy.
are back on course.
I do like the way the guy
Fulfill our
in the center
victorious
delivers his
summer
line.
mission.
So everybody's getting excited about
All
it.
right, Apollo 13.
And they all look like astronauts.
Get those helmet on.
Now remember when I said there was
We're
glass
gonna get you
banging
ready for
against each other?
re-entry.
That's what
Copy.
you heard. Glass fish bowls that I bought at Walmart. And then
Hey,
after I was done, I think I returned them
before we got
for
on the ship?
the price.
I think our heads got a little out of proportion.
I like that idea.
Houston,
That's a
have a
hysterical
problem.
ending. I just love it. Okay, I don't know if I said this in the commentary, but I have such a pleasant memory of this particular sketch. This is one of those ideas that the CCF leader, Pastor Phil, the CCF leader, which was not Pastor Phil, but he was sort of the guy that really organized it. He really wanted to do this sketch. He really liked the movie Apollo 13, and he just really wanted to do something like this. He wanted to do it at the beginning of the year, but I thought it really worked out better at the end. I think thematically it really works really well. I never expect them to use like blue screen or however they did that effect to make the earth in the background. Even though the effect looks really fake, it's enough to sell what we're going for. Not only that, the performance on stage, and then they were kind of having, because we were doing there was a video footage that was captured live, and there was stage performance that we captured also live. And it was kind of a really mix of genres. I really liked that. Never really done anything like that before. It was super entertaining. But hey, what I remember most about this is after that skit was done, Pastor Phil literally called me on stage and to give me like a special thanks. And to me, I mean, that was just super awesome for me. And I remember him like kind of looking in my ear, and he was saying something like, "What's going on in there?" Well, I've got an answer for that. The autism. Yeah, like I said, I've said before several times, I'm on the spectrum. Didn't know it at the time. Didn't find out till I was 50. I think I've shared that I feared that it was just, I don't know. Being on the spectrum is strange. It's like others might not have known it, even though they didn't know exactly what was. I hesitate to use the word wrong, because to me, I think like autism is just something that is just a part of me, really. I don't really see it as something wrong. It's just something that just sort of is. It'd be like having an eye that was a different color. I wouldn't see that as something terrible on account of that person. It's just a part of them. So maybe people could sense there was something different about me, and sometimes I think that has kept people purposely at arm's length, or they have kept themselves purposely at arm's length from me, and I do the same too. So hey. I've often wondered how I would have responded or reacted, I think would probably be the better word, if someone had come up to me suggesting that I'm on the spectrum. We didn't really have words for this or any sort of procedure for this back in the 90s, but I imagine I probably would have been insulted. If they kept that information from me because they feared my response, I also understand. I told you in part 1 that I was always creating stories, even if the audience for them didn't exist at the time. There's sometimes I wonder, like, would I have been as creative as I was without autism? If that's the case, should I be thankful for it? Personally, I would just love to have the take for granted confidence that I think a lot of the neurotypical people have, I guess, when they just walk in a room and they know exactly how to socialize and what to say and stuff like that. Speaking of which, I kind of have a dour note when it comes to this memory. After that particular CCF, the organizer, who, as I mentioned before, wasn't Pastor Phil, he wanted to have this pizza party, and that was kind of fun. And I remember, going up to the pizza party, and this is after like Pastor Phil gave me like a special thanks, so I felt like kind of was almost like the man of the hour at this thing. And I remember having a good time, but then one of the pastors, not Phil, but his wife Carrie, showed up. Was just in a foul mood for some reason. I don't remember why, but she really killed the party. And now I've talked about Pastor Carrie and something that had happened to me one terrible night. That hadn't happened then, but I'm kind of wondering, and I've been wondering, if this person, Pastor Carrie, is also on the autism spectrum as well. It would explain her constant pursuit of perfection and her great frustration when it's not obtainable. I've mentioned that before. I've seen this pastor, someone who should be, have tantrums that felt rather indicative of that. Anyway, I don't really want to get into theories, but that pretty much concluded my first year of being the senior skit writer at CCF. And it was followed by another successful one, which I'll get into in part 3.